a simple secret trick that enriches your writing. Hi, I'm Al Borowski, and I'm excited and delighted to host this unique educational event. Before we get started, I'd like to talk about 3 points. Point number 1, I'm sure that you've attended a lot of writing events, and the first writing events you ever attended were your English classes in school. And then after graduating, you probably attended seminars or workshops or teleseminars, webinars, online courses, podcasts, maybe even read some books or articles. What was the goal in all of these things after your initial English classes? To improve your writing, right? And you learned things about spelling and punctuation, grammar, structure, approach, the rules of writing, the rules of grammar, some common errors. And what was the goal in all of this? To improve your writing, to improve it over what you had already learned in English class. Now, other writing events that may have taken place in your career, you're a boss working with an employee. You're not happy with the way your employee or employees are working. And so you have to sit with them and show them different things, different ways to improve their writing. Or you may be an employee forced to sit with your boss. But the whole purpose of these 2 writing events was to improve your writing, right? And again, what did you talk about? Spelling, punctuation, grammar, structure, approach, rules, and common errors. But the whole purpose was to improve your writing. And you learned things like this. We was there when it happened. He done that lots of times. Her and I went dancing. The car needs washed. Where are you at? Or maybe your boss sat with you and talked to you about things like this. You can't end a sentence with a preposition. You can't begin a sentence with I. You can't begin a sentence with because. That's all a lie. Those 3 things are lies. Yes, you can end a sentence with a preposition. Yes, you can begin a sentence with I. Yes, you can begin a sentence with because. But all of this was to improve your writing. But look at the title of this program. A simple secret trick that enriches your writing. Enriches your writing. We're not here to talk about how to improve your writing. That's not what we're going to do. Now here's the second point we have to make about this. I said we're not going to improve your writing. When you learn to improve your writing, you were taught a lot of tips and techniques and strategies and suggestions and different rules. We're not going to do this. To do that, you have to learn something, practice it, and remember it. That's a lot of work. So we're not going to do that. What this is, it's a trick. It's a trick. Now I remember when I was in 5th, maybe 4th grade, my older cousin taught me a trick that guaranteed that I would never, ever in my life, lose a game of tic-tac-toe. He showed me how to do this, and I have never lost a game in my life. I may have played this game and it came to a draw, or maybe I even won some of these, but I never lost a game in my life. And because my cousin taught me, I taught my kids, I taught my grandkids this trick. Why? Because it is simple. That's the third component of this. It's simple. This was a very simple trick. He showed me one little thing, guaranteed I'd never lose a tic-tac-toe again. Now, in terms of simple, what does that mean? It's quick to learn, easy to do, it's effective, and it's painless. I like painless, and that's what this trick is for you. Have you been able to get out of the 3rd grade? Does your education extend beyond the 3rd grade? Then you should be able to do this trick. Why? Because it's simple. Folks, this stuff is absolute magic. Absolute magic. So I know what you're saying. Say, okay, what is this simple secret trick? Well, here it is. Reading and or writing poems regularly on an irregular schedule enriches your writing. That's it. Reading and or writing poems regularly on an irregular schedule enriches your writing. Now wait, hold on. I know what you're thinking. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. It may be to you. But again, if you've been able to get out of the 3rd grade and move on with your education, this trick will work for you. Let me explain what this whole thing about regularly and irregular means. Let's say, for example, you decide you're going to try this. And so On the first week, you read a poem on Monday. And the second week, you read a poem maybe on Wednesday. And the third week, you read that poem on Friday. And the fourth week, you read it on Sunday. So you read it regularly. You did it once a week. But you didn't do it on the same day. That's what that means. Now again, what are you thinking? Prove this, Al. Okay. Both Forbes magazine and the Harvard Business Review featured articles, reviews, and research that indicate that executives who read and write poems exhibit more empathy, compassion, and creativity. It also helps leaders to effectively conceptualize complex problems. Now, what in the Sam Hill does that mean? To think clearly. Reading poems helps you think clearly. Think about this. Clear thinking leads to clear writing. Here's an example of one of the quotes from one of these journals. Reading and writing poetry can be a valuable component of leadership development, from John Coleman. Now, why would they say such a thing? How did they reach that conclusion? Well, we have 10 presidents, almost a quarter of our presidents wrote poems. Washington, Lincoln, Jefferson, Adams, Tyler, Madison, Eisenhower, Carter, Obama, and also, Warren G. Harding. Now, I say Warren G. Harding for the last because the first 9 presidents wrote poems that they would be proud to have other people read. And many of them have been published, and they're out there in the public domain. But Warren G. Harding, he was just a little bit different. He wrote X-rated poems to his mistress. So there aren't too many of those floating around right now. We do have an honorable mention, and that's Woodrow Wilson. I couldn't find any evidence that Woodrow Wilson actually wrote poems, but he loved reciting limericks. He used to walk around the White House and social and political events reciting limericks. He recited one limerick so often that people actually thought he wrote it. He didn't write it, but he loved reciting limericks. And what are limericks? A form of poetry. Okay, I get it. You're not into politics. Well, how about these people? Albert Einstein, General Patton, Henry Ford, Mother Teresa, Leonard Nimoy. See, all of these people wrote poems. They're all recognizable. I'm going to share something with you that absolutely, positively, unequivocally proves reading poetry can enrich your writing. Remember this: friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. 16 words. In those 16 words, Shakespeare shared 7 business writing fundamentals. Fundamentals, things you need to know. Now, what are these 7 things that Shakespeare shared? 3 key writing elements in those 16 words. A figure of speech, a classic structural element, and 2 readability enhancers, all in those 16 words. Now, I know your English teachers and your writing experts have shown you how to use those fundamentals to improve your writing. Again, to improve your writing. We're not here to improve your writing. We're here to enrich your writing. That's what our goal is, to enrich your writing. Okay, it's time for a coffee break. Let's make believe that you and a couple of your friends got together one afternoon at Starbucks, and somehow the conversation turned to this whole idea of writing poems or reading poems. And you started talking about this whole idea. As the group discussed all of this, you had someone there that took a couple of napkins and wrote down what all of you were saying. And that scribe came up with a list. And if you review this list, you'll notice that a lot of this stuff is associated with poems or with poetry. The next week you have another meeting at Starbucks, and you say, okay, well, we talked about Al's ideas about poems. Let's see if writing all about, either your business writing or your personal writing. What kind of things could we come up with that relate to writing? And so again, your scribe has a bunch of napkins where he collects or she collects all of the things you talked about. Well, guess what? It's the same stuff. The only difference is that your business writing or your personal writing or your grant writing, none of that stuff rhymes. Well, guess what? Not all poems rhyme either. The difference between poetry and other forms of writing is that poems sometimes rhyme. Think about that. Poetry is a way of saying something in a way no one else has ever said it. What you write should be a way of saying something in a way that no one else has ever said it. The mark of great poetry or prose is that people remember the words and the meaning. Remember this: I had a dream. Ask not what your country can do for you. 7 years ago. Call me Ishmael. Now I got to explain that one. This is the first line of Herman Melville's classic book, Moby Dick. I love that story of Moby Dick, but this line struck me. I don't know why I remembered it, but I remembered it. Call me Ishmael. And then your old friends, Romans and countrymen. Would you like people to remember what you wrote? Are you ready to shed your junior high perceptions of poetry? Are you willing to spend a couple of minutes once a week to enrich your writing? That's it. Are you willing to spend a couple of minutes once a week to enrich your writing? Hold on. We're talking about reading poems. Is that hard? Is it difficult? Is it tough? No, I don't think so. Or what about writing poems? Let's say, for example, you did this for, say, 3 or 4 weeks, once a week, and you said, hey, I can write something like that. And then you write something like, I think it's time to write a poem and let my mind just free to roam. I can do this. So I'll just show it. Hey, look at me. I really am a poet. Now I know what you're thinking. You're right. A 3rd grader could write something like this. I'm not asking you to write Pulitzer Prize winning poetry. I'm just saying learn how to use the language. Learn how to use the words. Learn how to use the secrets of good writing. And you're right, a 3rd grader could have written that thing. By the way, your poem does not have to rhyme, okay? Now, this is what you should be doing, reading and writing poems. Why should you do that? Because when you stop learning, you start dying. When you stop learning, your brain starts shutting down. You don't want that to happen. Now, how do you do this? Well, you have 2 options. And again, both of them are free. You can do it on your own, or you can let me help you. But both are free. The goal here is to enrich your writing with poems. Can you do this on your own? Of course, absolutely. Here's how. If you wanted to do this on your own, here's a suggested reading list. If you read anything by any of these authors, you may want to say, I wonder why he wrote that. I wonder what this means. I wonder how this comes into play in terms of times in which they wrote. If you want that, you can Google their names and find tons of information about the particular piece of writing that you're reading. Tons of information out there. Or, with no commitment, no credit card, and no commercials, you can do something else. Last year, I published a book called Plagiarism Made Practical, Poems to Claim You Wrote. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and buy this thing. This book had 7 volumes. One talked about fun and love and imagination and occasional poems like the Hallmark cards kinds of things, serious poems, a special kind of poetry called haiku, and even lyrics to songs. 7 different volumes in that book. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and buy that. What I'm willing to do is to send you a sample. This is a sample volume of that book. The sample volume contains at least 2 poems from each of the 7 volumes, along with their explanations. And I will send this to you free. This way you can have the poem, you can read a poem once a week, and then find out why I wrote it, or how I wrote it, or what the circumstances were. And you start to get the idea of what this whole idea of reading poetry is all about, and why people like poetry. Now, if you let me do it, here's how we do this. You let me know that you want to learn this trick. I send you one of my poems, you read the poem, you send me your interpretation, what you think, what's your initial reaction to that poem, what you think about it, what you liked, what you didn't like. Just send me what you think about that poem. Then I will send you the how and the why I wrote it. And then we can share ideas about it by phone or email. Yeah, let's talk about it on the phone, or let's talk about it through email. Okay? Then we repeat steps 2 through 6 3 times. In other words, once a week, I will send you a poem, you read it, and send me your reaction. And we created a dialogue through this whole process. Hey, I can only work with about 10 people at a time. Hey, I'm retired and have 11 grandkids and one beautiful great-granddaughter. And I have to watch all those reruns of Matlock, Gunsmoke, and Law & Order. Some of you still think this is a bunch of malarkey. Some of you think this just might work. And about 1.5 to 2% of you are willing to try it right now. You really believe it's going to work. You know it's going to work. Plus, it's free. Now, I don't want to talk to this group of people. I don't want to talk to this group of people. I want to focus on this group of people. So those people that think it might work. Here's what I recommend you do. Google this phrase, lyrics yesterday. Remember the song Yesterday by the Beatles? Even if you don't remember it, still Google the lyrics to Yesterday. Then, either from the screen or a printed version of the lyrics, you can print the lyrics out, pretend you are talking to someone. Recite the lyrics, don't sing them, recite them out loud. And as I said, make believe you're talking to someone either in person or on the phone, or maybe you're thinking about writing an email and these are the words that you would be using. What did you recite? A song lyrics? A poem? A conversation? Maybe an email? This can be fun. You're not working, you're practicing magic. Now, you can do it on your own using the masters, or send me an email to al@alborowski.com, al@alborowski.com, and use the subject line sample. And I will send you a copy, the sample volume of Plagiarism Made Practical. And you can get started on your own doing that. Or if you want me to help you, great. Send me an email at al@alborowski.com and use the subject line poems. So if you want me to help you, the subject line is poems. If you want to do it on your own with the sample, use sample as the subject line for the email. Now, why should you do this? Here's why. We have physical proof, academic proof. And remember this, your English teachers taught you the basics, the fundamentals. Now it's time to enrich your writing. What we're talking about here is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Remember this? Well, here's my interpretation of this. A squared is the stimulated brain from reading those poems, which creates clear thinking, which equals clear writing. Go ahead, right now, send me your info so you can get started. Learn magic and impress your friends, coworkers, and your boss.